everyone. This is Stephanie Mann at the Safe Kids Now show, and I'm really excited today to have an amazing guest. And in the face of overwhelming adversity, former federal judge Mary Elizabeth Bullock makes a name for herself as a trial litigator, a respected business law professor, and a federal civil rights judge. She finds brilliant success in spite of being blind and being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and symptomatic lupus, and having endured a childhood poisoned by unspeakable abuse. I mean, we have introduced a lot of people, but this is a story that all of us should hear. And I'm so happy to welcome Mary Elizabeth. How
Yes,
are you today?
I am fine. And Rebecca, thank you for asking me on today. I'm sorry we ran a little bit behind because I'm using my laptop and I really can't see very well, but we managed to get it together because it was important for me to come today. There are
Well,
people I want to give hope to. They need hope, and I want to be their hope.
I'm so glad you could join us because I think you're absolutely right. A lot of people have been involved in child abuse. And why don't you tell us your story? Because I know you wrote a book called Judging Me.
That's
Um,
right.
Show us the
It's
book.
it's judging.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. And, why don't you tell us a little bit about your childhood and how you managed to go from abuse into being a federal judge?
Well, it's an amazing thing actually. We were very poor, extraordinarily poor, and my father started grooming me by the age of 3 to be sexually abused. When he finally could do it, when he couldn't do it, he burned my body. I have all the scars. He took a knife to me and bled me all over. And when he wasn't burning me or knifing me, he was actually screwing with me. I don't know. I want to be polite in front of the audience, and I don't want to use bad words. So after he made enough money off of me, we went. He would go on business trips, and then he'd bring all kinds of people back into the room. And believe me, I wished they were dead. They brought into that room things that are unspeakable. They did to me things that one could only do in the deepest, darkest of night.
Yeah.
And I was terrified. I laid under the bed shaking. I didn't want them to pull me up. I was frightened. I knew that what was going to happen to me was going to be horrible. I knew if I screamed, if I didn't participate, that, help in the particular thing that was happening, if I screamed, that they would hurt me more. And they paid my father money for being able to do this. Two, three
Well,
people on top of me. Really? I mean, I'm 7 years old by now. It was horrible.
Mary
And
Elizabeth, where was your mother?
that's a good question. On the business trips that he took me on, my mother was not there. I was the oldest, and then came my sister by a year and my brother by 10 months. And she was busy taking care of them. And actually, even though my mother heard what was going on, she did not do anything. She just turned the TV set up louder. I would
Oh dear.
scream and ask for her and beg for her, somebody to come and help me. I mean, even when he beat me very badly and the incest was so horrible, I would go to school. I had 2 dresses. There was blood on everyone. No one asked me if I had problems at home. No one. They could tell it was not dirt. It was blood, blood everywhere. And yet, no truancy officer when I was walking home, if I ever got to school, or teacher ever asked if I was okay. I wasn't okay. I was terrified of people. And
I think there was a different age when parents and teachers, they didn't interact,
they didn't
perhaps.
want to get involved. They
They
were
didn't want to get
terrified.
involved. I think,
He was in
you
the
know,
what, 50s.
I can remember when people used to say, that's none of my business.
That, that's
That's
right. But I screamed. I wanted help. I was a little that lived in a home that was dirt poor. My father made me eat Skippy hamburger dog food. Well, the rest of the family, albeit we didn't have much, they didn't have to gag their dinner down. I would throw it up and make me to throw up. I don't know how many times. I could not leave that table. And this was a routine until he finally sold me. I guess he had enough of me. I I tell people when I fill out doctor's forms and they want to know about my family, I put hatched from an egg because I don't know. I don't know anything about these people. They were monsters to me. I couldn't tell you. And
Well,
doctors that I'm sorry, go ahead.
did you have an eyesight problem at the time, or?
No, I got that with when I had MS. That was part of the MS symptoms.
Oh,
When
okay.
your
Well,
sight
now,
up.
how did you go from being a terribly abused child to being able to graduate and be a litigator and a trial lawyer? How did that work? That sounds amazing.
Well, my brothers and sisters were forced to watch what happened to me, and they dropped out of school. They were on heroin by the age of 6 or 7, and all I knew was that if I got an education, if I had an education, I could get out of that house. And so I applied to go to USD. There was a Carmelite monastery, there was a monastery there, if you will, and there was they had a building for priests, and I went in as a novitiate nun. You ever heard that saying, "Get thee to the nunnery"?
Yeah.
It's an Irish saying, and it comes from the fact that young abused women went into the convent. That's what they did. Right?
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, so I studied hard. I got A's in everything. In high school, I would lock myself in the pantry because I couldn't sleep well at night because my brother and my father kept setting the house on fire. I mean, I can work a fire extinguisher like no other. Um, but I would lock myself in the pantry and I would study, and I got A pluses and scholarships like you wouldn't believe. And it was sad to go and receive them without my parents or anyone being there. It was embarrassing to walk up when I could barely walk because I had been so damaged by my father that they took pity on me. And you know what? I don't ever want pity ever in my life. I worked hard to be who I am. I
Yeah.
wouldn't let them diminish me. And I don't want these young women out there to feel that anyone can diminish who they are because they can't. You decide for yourself what you're going to do and how you're going to take it and what you're going to do about the pain, the scars. You can't work it out by yourself. It just doesn't happen that way. I mean, I married a psychiatrist, so I guess I was lucky in some ways. But you have to want it bad enough. Surviving is great, but thriving is what you want.
Exactly.
To go from surviving to thriving, you have to make a commitment to something greater than yourself.
Yeah.
And that is something that you hold on to for the rest of your life. And I made that commitment. I wanted to be actually a businesswoman, but I found out that after my MBA, well, really, you couldn't do anything until you were a lawyer. And it was just, one degree after another. But I thought I could make the world a better place. I had hoped. One classroom at a time, one court case at a time. And then as a judge, I knew that whatever I ruled, if it wasn't overturned, and I've never been overturned, one law at a time.
How
Because
long were how long were you on the bench?
Not nearly as long as I should have been. Let's see, 1999 to 2007. I was
Okay.
asked to change a decision. Our judiciary is more corrupt than anyone wants to believe. They feel that everybody can have their day in court. Not so. They called me in after ovarian cancer surgery 4 hours into the recovery room and told me to change a decision that was 68 pages long, single space with 69 footnotes or 67 footnotes, and told me to change it because she didn't want her sister agency to suffer. I said, that's not my job. I said, it was your job to educate these agencies. You're, after all, a chairwoman of the EEOC. That was your job. My job is to try and help these people who have been discriminated against to decide if they have valid cases. Snapshots of pictures in time. And the things I saw, I mean, they had psychopaths for boss. And when Terry Dominguez, who was the chair at the time I was there, actually called me from ovarian cancer in the recovery room to get in that office right now. I was shocked. The doctor said, "You're not going anywhere." And I said, "Please, I don't know what's wrong. I'm very conscientious. Please let me go and see." So I went in. The director was there, every supervising judge, and people from Washington, D.C., the executive branch. They said, "You got to change this decision." I said, "Why?" "I've never been overturned ever." And the work was so precise, it couldn't be overturned. They said, "That's the problem. We don't want these women to win." I said, "I'm sorry. I don't, you know what? I could care less about the SEC. I care a lot about these two Asian women attorneys that were discriminated against because they were Chinese and because they also paid them less than the men." And I said, and that's what I say, and I'm not changing it. And
Good for
then,
you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to, it's hard to stick to your guns,
I
but
have,
you didn't
if I
have a choice because you had your own value system. Well,
I
good for you.
swore under the Constitution that I would uphold the highest law in the land. And that wasn't what these people were doing.
Wow.
They wanted political favors. And I have a book coming out end of April about that very thing. Because my book ends, the next to last chapter ends on, I don't believe Kennedy today would say that corruption has anywhere in our court system.
Wow. Well, what would you suggest for change? And let's get back to that. We're going to take a short break, and then we will be right back, and we will find out what Mary Elizabeth would suggest in the way of change for our court system. So we'll be right back.
Pillow Throw and Tuck. It's handmade by myself, and you only can get it here, and it's patent, and it's only here at Rococo Design. It's like a regular pillow, or you can take the blanket out like so, fluff up the pillow, open up your blanket, wrap it around yourself, and then you can lay on your sofa and relax with your Pillow Throw and Tuck. When you're done with it, just flip it over. When you don't want the blanket anymore, you just fold it over twice. Fold it over twice again. Fold it over. And tuck it in the back. And there you go. Your back.
Welcome back, and we are speaking today with former federal judge Mary Elizabeth Bullock, and she's an experienced trial litigator, a respected business law professor, and a federal civil rights judge. And before the break, I asked her what she would suggest in the way of change, because I'm hearing a lot about corruption, whether it's in the media, whether it's in the presidential races, or whether, as you say today, it's in the judicial system. So what do you suggest, or what needs to change?
Well, I am what you would call the kind of person who moves arguments forward. And so corruption is a major deal in the courthouse. I just want to back up a little bit. When I was a trial litigator and had a very political case at the Del Mar Fair Board, and it was really, really bad. The racetrack was fixed. I don't care. I'll say it out loud. I did the forensic audit on it, and it was bad. So when they found out that I discovered that, they murdered my brother.
Oh,
That's what happens to women like myself who speak up. who say, I'm going to push this argument forward and I'm not going to shut up until this system is right. They thought they could take me out by murdering my brother. Well, guess what? I showed up the next day, 4 hours after identifying his body. And you know what the judge did? His eyes grew the size of Texas. And he said, well, Miss Bullock, I'm surprised to see you here today. He said, I understand that you're the demise of your brother. I said, whoa, I'm surprised you even know. Because there would have been no way to have gotten in the paper. My brother was a felon. Now, I'm telling you, there's no way they would have had this in the paper. The police wouldn't have called. They knew about it. They knew about it because one of them arranged it.
Hmm. So what needs to change here?
Well, all I can tell you is that as a judge, I swore an oath to the Constitution. That doesn't seem to matter to people anymore. I don't know. Maybe it's they're afraid that they'll end up like me, losing their jobs, losing their bar license, all because litigation is the last blood sport in America. I mean, civil law used to be civil. Well, as civil as it could be. Now it's the last blood sport in America. All they care about doing, the attorneys, is being the last one at the podium standing in your blood. And now people go in the back door. They bribe judges. They bribe clerks. They bribe other people. I don't understand how we let our judicial system get so corrupt. Another thing is, no one watches over the federal judges. No one. Who do you go to when your judge has been turned? You know that the judge is saying things that don't make any sense. Where do you get the information? I don't know.
Well, as a civil rights attorney, did you see that same corruption in the, when you're doing those kind of cases?
Actually, in killing my brother, I guess that was corrupt. They thought they would take me out. Because you see, I'm a very nice person, and they mistook my kindness for weakness. That's a big mistake. They found that out. And I eventually ended up winning my case against the United States Attorney because I could no longer take the pablum they were trying to feed to the judge. And the most horrible thing is that day that I was in court, when they called my name to come up, my MS had eaten away the myelin sheath into my legs. I couldn't stand. So I had to get my law clerks to carry me up to the table. It was so embarrassing. I said, okay, quickly in my head, do I call 911 now, or do I just get up there, have them help me? So I'll say what I need to say to win for them, and then I can go to the hospital. So I said, you guys help me up. Help me get to the table. And then I said to the judge, Your Honor, may I please argue sitting down because my legs aren't working. I have MS, and apparently they've got a mind of their own. So I hope you'll understand. And no disrespect to you, sir. And they let me argue sitting down, and I still won. I couldn't believe it. On that day, that attorney general was very good. I mean, he hadn't been good for 2 years. All of a sudden, his arguments were good. Somebody else was the book.
Now, where were you practicing law at this
San
time?
Diego.
San Diego? Okay.
I was a graduate of University of San Diego Law School. I also received an MBA there. I'm working on trying to get a Title IX certificate for universities, which is very much like Title VII in the sense of no sexual abuse, no hostile work environment or hostile class environment because of sexual tensions, rapes, assaults, etc. So it's very much what I did as a judge. And all I can say is that I work extraordinarily hard. And one thing my director said to me was, stop writing such long decisions and please stop the footnotes. As a law professor, I was used to that. Because if I'm going to write something, it's going to be perfect. And I'm going to make sure I've covered every aspect. Well, he said, stop that. And I said, in all due respect, director, do you want me to re-victimize these people twice? Because if I don't write a full decision and cover every angle, it will be overturned. And these people will again be re-victimized. So I couldn't do it. I could not. They wanted me to do it the lazy way so they could turn it over. And I said, no. These people, I will not re-victimize. The stories I heard, what happened to their lives at their employment. doctors take an oath to do no harm. Well, employers should take that same oath that
Yeah.
we do no harm to our employees, but they don't. It's usually a group thing. It's just like tax where you're doing taxes. If your accountant says to you personally, if you want to write off your racing losses, go ahead, but you better be ready to claim your profits, and they will audit you. When you get a large group, people have group think and they say, well, none of us is really responsible for this bad decision. It's just everybody. And they walk away and it doesn't bother them in the least. I have never seen such cold, harsh reality in my life. And they tried to destroy me. During my hearing, it came out that they had hired someone to take me out.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, really, I was just doing my job. And when I wouldn't change that decision, she says, this is a third order. You have to obey it. I said, no, ma'am, I do not. I understand it's an order. The only person I can go to is President Clinton, but I believe with Monica Lewinsky, he's pretty busy right now. And I said, I don't think you'd have time for my phone call. So I'm going to make an executive decision. I'm not changing it. I said, if I go back to the hospital and I come back and it's changed, I'm going to call those women and tell them that they should sue you. And I will be a witness in your defense because it's wrong. It was all wrong what they did. And so they were mad at me, as mad as could be, because they couldn't turn me.
Well, that's what it takes. A strong character, courage, character,
Conviction.
and a self-protective conscience, because obviously you had been through a lot yourself. So you were very much a soldier for other people that were going through a lot. Well, now you had mentioned.
What would I do to change the system?
Yeah.
We need someone to literally oversee federal judges because they're out of control. If you look at the case against Chevron and the Amazon oil spills in the Amazon, I don't know if you heard about the gentleman that was the attorney that represented the Amazons and the oil spill against Chevron. Well, apparently the federal judge did not disclose that all of his retirement was in Chevron. So when Chevron lost, he lost his retirement and he put the attorney in jail. He did nothing but win. And nobody thought anything was weird about that. I said, what is wrong? What is wrong with these people? You can't lock up an attorney because he was right. He didn't violate a law. And he's been in prison, I don't know how long, maybe 3 or 4 years. And now he's out with an ankle thing around his ankle. I go, why? I don't understand how these judges get away with it. I don't. And so there's an undercurrent going on where people are saying, we have to monitor these federal judges. They're out of control. And they are. When you let somebody walk in your back door and tell you, look, I'll pay you $50,000 if you'll change your decision. No, the answer is no. You can't be bought off. Well,
obviously some people can be bought off.
Well, that's the problem. And so we need someone to oversee these judges.
Absolutely. Now, where would those people come from? How would you oversee judges?
I don't know who would oversee them. I know our state bars don't do a very good job of overseeing attorneys. Like for me, for example, the EEOC called the state bar and said, take that woman's license away. And a report was written up when I had enough money saved to hire someone to do a study on what happened to me at the EEOC and the state bar. The California Supreme Court judge said, Mary Elizabeth did nothing wrong, but because she refused to do something illegal, she had a target on her back, and they went after her to crucify her and to assassinate her career, quote unquote, into perpetuity. Wow. And the state bar knows this. And they even know that the person that they used for the forensic neurologist who said I was too sick and couldn't make a decision. I mean, look at all my accolades. Global Goodwill Ambassador, World Track Peace Ambassador, all the children I've helped in sex trafficking, all the things I've done. And they still won't give me back my license, even though he ordered them to backdate it even. And that's never been done to anybody. But they took it away because they lied. Because they could. That's the problem. They could lie. Nobody was going to come after them.
Well, you know, you are an example of what we obviously need some changes. And I think people have to speak up and talk about these
They do.
situations. And if
You're
they
right.
don't speak up, nothing's going to change. So I
That's
want to
right.
thank you so much for sharing your story and what you have accomplished in your life and how you have overcome incredible problems. But one final question I'd like to ask, and that is, today there are 10 million children that are in abusive homes. What suggestions would you give to families that see this, maybe outside the home or neighbors? What would you suggest? Because you were ignored. How can we stop ignoring the abuse of children? Because that's very concerning for all of us too.
Right. Well, let me tell you what happens in family court, for example.
Okay.
In family court, there's this business. Children are sold. And it happens because they say, well, we're not sure if mom or dad should have a child, so let's send them for a psychological inquiry. And they send the children to a group home. And from there, they're scooped up and sold. Happens in every family court we have.
Really?
Yes. It's the judges, it's the prosecutors, it's the attorneys. It is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen. I'm glad I never went into custody. I'm a widow. I'm glad I never went into a custody dispute because it would have been horrible.
Well, I'm a crime and violence prevention consultant, and I went into group homes with police officers, and I saw them just doling out pills to
Yes.
keep them in a
Many
certain,
quiet.
to make them zombies. And I
Yes.
had one young man say to me, he was a sophomore in high school,
Mhm.
and he said, I'm so drugged. He said, I'm going to have to repeat my sophomore year because I can't concentrate.
No,
What
they can't.
kind of system is this? This is
I don't know.
crazy.
If I walked in there, I would have said, this stops now and it stops with me. What the heck are you doing? And
Yeah.
I would make a huge big deal out of it, just like I make a big deal out of all corruption. Because when I see it, I point it out. I said, do you think this is the right thing to do? I have some problems with that. That's really, you're not thinking clearly. If you think you can take kids and sell them out from underneath their parents, you're wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of us are promoting citizen involvement,
We have to.
because it's going to take, it's not the politicians that are going to
No.
make this change.
No, they don't want to change. You know
No,
why?
they don't want to
It
change.
affects-
There's a lot of money here.
It affects.
So it's going to be involved citizens that make the difference. So any last suggestions that you would like to make, Mary Elizabeth? Because I really
Yes, I
appreciate
want
your being
people
here.
to wake up. I want them to see how corrupt our system, how corrupt our government is. Wake up and then do something. Don't turn your back on this, as Kennedy would say. Don't turn your back on this. We can't. These are
That's
children.
right.
I mean, these are monsters picking them up and sold exactly for sex trafficking. You know what? I had been bought for a snuff film. You know what a snuff film is, right? A snuff film is when someone pays $1 million to kill you on camera, and the person who bought you wears all leather and a hood, something like you would see in that movie. Let's see, try to think. Lecter, Hector. What is his name? Lecter. Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, Hannibal Lecter?
Right. And when they pulled me out of the cage to confront something like that, I knew I'd been sold, and that I was counting the days, if not weeks, till I was dead.
Oh.
So I did what I could to escape. I heard about metal fatigue, and I shook that cage. I was 8 feet up. I just shook it until I said, somehow I've got to get out of here because I'm going to be dead. I wanted to live. I didn't want to live the way my family was, but I wanted my own life.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. Show us the cover of your book again.
I will.
Because it has the whole story in there, and we want people to
Judging me. Well, only
judging me.
time. So there's people out there who have reprinted it up and are selling it for $50 or $24. It's free on Kindle, and it's like 14 something. I wanted women and children that have been abused to read this. It gives them hope.
Good.
Only for 62 pages have to do with what happened, and it's your imagination that fills in the rest. That's the problem. But it gives hope. It tells you, okay, this is a journey. Please go on it with me. My road may not be yours, but you'll find your own road. And all I want to tell you
Right.
is that never give up on yourself. No one can diminish you. My father's violence, he couldn't make me violent. The sex traffickers, they could not blacken my heart. And what the EEOC did, they couldn't corrupt me. I will decide who I'm going to be, and this is who I am. I will fight for justice until I die. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us. You're an inspiration. I wish you all kinds of luck and prayers and wishes for your good health. And thank you so much, Mary Elizabeth,
No,
for
Rebecca,
joining us today.
thank you for having me on. It was my privilege.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Well, that's quite a story. And she's an amazing lady. I mean, it's hard for most of us to fathom going through what she went through and coming out the other side and still handling health issues, but fighting back and winning. So thank you for joining us. And we will see you next week. And blessings and peace to you all.